180.
Right, I'd like to begin the regular school board meeting of the Bristol School Board. We'll do a roll call. Darren Carlucci, oh, that's me. Becky Cooper.
Here.
June Donenfeld.
Here.
Emil Lugosh. Here. Catherine Thompson.
Here.
Administration attendance, we have Todd Sanders and Miss Jennifer Blero.
Peter's here somewhere.
Here's here somewhere.
Printing. Playing.
Yeah,
No question.
no, Christine, that's all right. Well, I'll do the pledge. Here's the pledge. Come on in. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty, and justice for all. I had a brain fart. There we go. Okay. Any agenda adjustments? for
Yep,
this
under the
evening?
presentations, I'm gonna answer some of those questions that were asked about ESSA funds, after the title funds.
Okay,
And we omitted Dan's principal report for some years when we did the agenda, so I'm gonna,
well, thank you.
that should be put on after my.
Okay. Title funds, principals report.
Cool.
Any other agenda adjustments?
Thank you, Paul.
Are we doing that presentation for BCS?
Yes.
So the- that-
That's under that. No,
Okay.
that's on there.
That's later.
What for our public comment? Hello, public. Hearing none. Moving along. Yeah, as Todd said, we do have a presentation with regards to the ESC process. So we're gonna be doing that under the Bristol, what's that?
We're doing this, the title funds on that.
We're doing the title funds now. Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, the question was asked to a couple email threads about title funds and what was happening. Obviously, there was significant concern, I would say, not just in Maine, but around the nation, when some federal funds were being held up. They've all since been released. As I was going through it, there were some specific questions board members asked, and then I was just trying to think what might be some other questions you might have or that you might get from your constituents. So I threw together this point with about 7 points to talk about. I'll read it just so that it's letting the audience know what I'm saying and what you have in front of you. So one of the big questions we always get is what determines the level of federal funding that a district will get, and the two biggest things are your location is rural and your poverty levels. Those are the two biggest things. There are others, but those are the biggest ones. How are the title funds utilized is often asked. So Title I is improving academic achievement. So that would be student support services, professional development, parent and family engagement, and specific programming, for example, pre-K or after school and summer school programming. Title II supports effective instruction, and that's primarily the professional development for your teachers. Title III is language instruction for English learners and immigrant students. We do not receive those funds. Title IV is cultivating, renovating, and cutting edge schools. And there are several buckets that come out of Title IV comes out of. One is safe and healthy schools. The second one is well-rounded education. And the third is technology. And that can be purchasing the technology or training teachers to utilize technology. And then Title V is kind of a unique one. It's based primarily on the needs of the state or the town. There are two parts of that. Part A goes through the grants, the B process. That is pretty strict and that is monitored very closely. It's not uncommon for us to have to submit an application, get it back, make adjustments to it, resubmit it, and that goes through several approval processes through the software system. The part B of that is the REAP grant. That's your Rural Education Achievement Program, and that provides resources, programming, and staffing. Number 3, current funding status. U.S. Department of Education has released the following. These were the 4 that were being held up. Title I, Part C, migrant education. Title II, supporting effective instruction. That was the PD I mentioned earlier. Title III, English language acquisition. And Title IV was student support and academic achievement. So those were all released. How do you get the grant? How do you process this? How do you go about applying for these funds? Well, there's a grant application that you have to go through, and there are 3 required elements. Have to have a focus on math, literacy and reading, and some self-selected non-academic related goal. I gave you one example, school climate. There could be others, but it's non-academic goal. And Jen can tell you about all these because she's the one who tracks the data and stuff. You complete a comprehensive assessment annually, and that is telling the state and the feds that you are actually trying to do what you said you're going to do. You don't necessarily have to achieve the goals that you set, but you just have to be demonstrating that you were trying to achieve those. And as it says, there's constantly changing, and the application can be edited as necessary. Of course, then you have to go back through the whole process again through the grants from me. How were we impacted? Well, Title II funding is what we received. We got our Title II funding, and you can see that Bristol is receiving $21,771.50. That's actually $4,000 more than the school received last year. The other schools, I won't read the other towns, but you can see the other towns, how they're faring as well. For Title IV funds, Bristol gets $10,000. And that's that status, that's flat from what we received last year. So more money from those two grants funds that were released than we were receiving last year.
Sorry, can we back up?
Yep.
Are we talking about fiscal year 25? I'm wondering how it aligns with this table.
The 20, it says right beside it. So Bristol is $4,000 more than fiscal year 25, the 21,000.
So we're talking about 26. So I'm wondering why these numbers are different. 'Cause it says Title II 17.
17,706.
Yeah,
That's what I-
for Bristol and Title II. Is it?
That would be $4,000 less than what you got. this
Yes,
year.
okay, gotcha, okay. Fine.
That's okay.
So Todd.
Yeah.
It seems as though for the Title IV funding, I'm looking at 5A OSU impact.
Yep.
It looks as though the amount of the funding is not dependent at all on the number of students at the school, is that correct?
Jen, doesn't it? It doesn't.
They've been flat funding most schools at 10,000 for Title IV for many years. I can't remember the reasoning behind it, but it might just be if we're not big enough, everybody just gets.
You just get it. And we move that into, I think it says that on there, I can't tell me, I can't remember.
We often move it to
We
one,
move it to Title I.
but you could move it to two if you have a big PD need.
Another thing that you may hear is school-wide identification, and that's what all four of our schools in the US 93 are. And that's good because you're not targeted to specific students for assistance. It gives you a lot of flexibility on how you can spend your funds. And as long as it's the purpose that Title I through Title V identifies that you can use those funds for, any one of those funds, you can utilize those funds as that, so you have that flexibility.
So we can move them around as we see.
Or you can use them out of wherever they're located.
As long as we write a project, that you can't like move them after you said you're gonna do one thing very easily.
So each school can do that as it is now, not the whole, we all don't have to do
No.
this thing.
And administrators may talk, they may have similar goals, but they are different. And then the last thing I put on there is just the thing with any of these fundings, you have to remember is you have to supplement, not supplant. Supplementing is adding to or improving what's already existing, supplanting would be using federal funds to cover the cost of something the district already had in place or was anticipating paying for. Peter works closely with the grants today. Anything that I didn't cover?
That's the most detailed explanation of all that I've ever heard. One time.
This is really good, thank you.
First time they start talking about grants. It's still a touchy subject. How much of that is going towards the salaries or towards the budget?
Hold on, Catherine had a question.
So my biggest question is why in fiscal year 25, again, on this chart, why does Title V have 18 grand in the 25 year and not in the fiscal year 26? I was curious about why is that?
Is that the REAP money?
Yeah.
It's by REAP money. Yeah, Title V is not,
REAP money has been, they've said that they are about to release it. They haven't determined how much every single town is gonna get, so we haven't filled in that blank yet.
Okay, so that's in progress,
Yeah.
basically.
And
Okay.
REAP stands for?
Rural Education Achievement Program.
yeah,
So it's on that.
Because when I looked at this document, right at the top, there is no Title V listed.
and when you look at it, you see SRSA is, that's the code, isn't it, Peter? I think it's.
Yeah, SRSA and REAP are two different acronyms for the same
Yeah.
thing.
So it's-
I forget what SRSA stands for
Yeah.
right now.
Okay, there we go.
REAP is, Sarah had REAP is. I usually use the term REAP, but whenever I see it written down, it says SRSA/REAP. It's the same program, it's US Rural Development money that is delivered in partnership with the Department of Education for improving quality of education. We use it for staff in central office, working, site.
And we do have a very good contracted service provider, Wendy Betts, who works closely with our administrators, developing these applications and modifying them as necessary.
So even if do we have any migrant education student? I know in the past, a long time ago, it was so we can take that money since we have no migrant,
We don't get them.
we don't get the money at all. I thought maybe we could move it to something.
If we could, we would.
All right,
And we don't get it because we don't have that population.
okay.
So my next question was why? I was just doing fiscal year 26 minus 25 for each school. Bristol had the biggest difference. So this is gonna change given that REAP money, it sounds like, once that comes through. But regardless of that, because all the schools say 0 for Title V loan. Why does that change more between fiscal years for Bristol than other schools?
Based on whatever information was provided as far as those, the things I told you about.
Are we
taking into
receiving
consideration.
grant money
So-
for one area than other schools are?
So they count everything, so they're gonna look at everybody's student population, how much you're spending on students and how much and like the poverty rate within your town. And other metrics, so they have all these metrics, then the federal government does its data to say how much the state of Maine should get based on the whole state of Maine's metrics, then Maine gets it and divides it up among all the different school districts with another formula. So the fact that we're within even 10% each year is kind of a miracle that it doesn't vary even wider.
I said, okay.
And we always, what we do when we budget for title funds, like how much should Title I teacher, how much should we count on getting? We always knock 5% off what we get the previous year, because for a while, we kept getting warned by the DOE, this money is gonna be less and less and less. And it was dipping for a while, but the last few years, it's kind of evened out. And now we're seeing it, bump up a little bit. That bump doesn't mean that's the direction it's headed. It just means that the data this year bumped us a little, could dip the other way the next year. And you'll see this, it's very similar to when we start waiting during the budget season for the ED 279 to come up to see what our state subsidy is, whether it's more or less than last year by 5 or 10 or 20 or $70,000. These are the things that fall into place over the year. And these numbers have just fallen into place, so we know what these are now. And then the ED state subsidy falls into place in January, so we're always watching these and anticipating based on trends what they will be, and then locking in around them when we get them. They're never the same.
I said, so there's just fluctuation.
There's just fluctuation.
Okay.
Jen, did you want to add anything about?
No, I was just gonna share I did them for many years ago, and it's a guessing game.
Yeah.
And a lot of it has to do with the timeliness of the data. Some of the data they're basing it on is already a year or two old to those trends, but I think the hardest part is, I don't know that they have very accurate pictures of our poverty rates among our student population.
And that's the free and reduced lunch.
It used to be they
It
use
used-
that form, they
Okay.
have some other forms they use, but it's really hard to get accurate pictures.
And they look at your different programs, like your pre-K program and its enrollment is a separate metric from your K through 8, which is a separate metric from your secondary. So as large groups of large classes move through the years, it could change, in response to that. There's just too many variables to just know exactly what it is, unless you spend a lot of time going into the data and analyzing it, and trying to find out. Which at the end of the day, we do that a lot on the 279, because that's a big chunk of money. But on these, it's they don't vary that much in comparison to some of the other things we're watching. So we can only get so analytical. We understand what they're measuring. We trust that they're measuring it the way they need it to, and there's not much recourse anyway. If we wanted more, we don't know a way to get it.
Okay.
There was one question I don't have on here that someone asked through an email thread, I think, was what if we don't get the money, what happens? It would fall on, if you wanted to maintain either your programming or your staffing, it would fall onto the local budget to maintain that. So it would have to be absorbed by the local budget. Thankfully, that didn't happen.
Yeah, and the title funds really only touch maybe two people, but the special ed federal money does support a lot of different things that are direct service related, so that's harder.
And there's all kinds of rules about carryover from year to year on this. So like we didn't spend all our Title II money last year because we did a lot of, what do you wanna call it, homegrown interlocal.
Yeah.
Professional development that didn't cost us a lot, so we didn't have a lot of bills for that, but now this year we have. All the money left over from last year and this new money that we can spend in professional development. And we have the opportunity to invest in some things, so we're looking at some IXL training for teachers and things that we other, in some years we wouldn't have. Spent the money on, but now we have a little bit there, but also working with Wendy and the state. We're able to start shifting more to Title I because of the all school thing, so maybe we don't need as much professional development, we can put more into the Title I teaching position. We leave the general fund a little bit if we cannot get into that supplant line, so we have to watch all these things and use it so that we're maximizing the efficiency and the value that we get out of it. While also trying to utilize it for all that we can, to get all the professional development and everything that is possible through these funds. So as we carry it over, some years where we didn't get a chance to spend it all, the next year we can spend more, and then, but eventually, you only have a couple of years before you lose what you don't spend.
Right.
So it's not a fiscal year based strategy, it's a longer span that you have on these. And we manage multiple years at a time.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Ben.
Thank you, Wendy.
Wendy.
Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you, very helpful.
All right, action on our minutes. We everyone got our minutes from our last meeting, June 24th. Any omissions, errors, additions? If not, I'll take a motion. Emil has a motion. I'll second. Any discussion? All in favor of accepting the minutes? Thank you. Chair's report, the next regular meeting of the Bristol School Board will be September 23rd. The next AOS meeting will be September 3rd at the AOS 93 Central Office at 6 o'clock. And our AOS representative, June Donenfeld. And would like to give a
I will not give an extensive report,
Great.
because most of what I would have to say will be coming later on in the meeting.
gotcha.
But that said, there was to have been discussion of the fiscal year 27 draft budget, but that was tabled, so I have a report there. And there was a request at the meeting by the Jefferson rep to check the interlocal agreements for any accuracies or inaccuracies, just to update it, because it has changed because of Great Salt Bay withdrawing.
And your formula changed a little bit. as well.
Right, and then, yeah, the formula changed.
And I was in conversation with Drum Woodson today about getting that done with the.
I think that's it for the time being.
Okay. Any questions for June? Thank you, June. Superintendent's report.
Yep, on July 15th, I attended the Early Childhood Summer Summit up in Brewer. And that was, it was focusing on those younger kids that we're gonna be taking under our wings, if you will, down the road, birth to grade 3 span of children. So it was good to hear some of the things that are going on. It was actually a school in Maine, living up in Skowhegan, they actually built a wing in their building for birth to grade 3, at age 3 students.
That's interesting.
And they did it in a building project, they had a building project for state.
They're not giving birth and.
No.
Taking them out of the hospital.
So that would be one end of the spectrum, most schools are on this end of the spectrum, so. But it was interesting to hear those schools that are already doing it, that are already interacting at that level, because we were already in discussions with Jessica Berry from just up the coast, talking about what that may look like as we move forward, so.
You said 0. 80.
Birth to.
Interesting, and this is full-time care? Full-time something,
It could be.
could be,
So
interesting.
Todd, it's defined as birth to three, but they're really only targeting
Third and
the
fourth.
3-year-olds and 4-year-olds.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I think if you read into the details, nobody's.
We won't have
managing-
infancy.
Nobody's managing 18-month-olds in public school. Really, the focus is going down right now.
And is this will be a requirement, is that? what we're-
So it's a private, it's considered a private program?
No, there are some schools that are piloting it now. Rockland piloted.
And they're only supporting the CBS 3-year-olds.
What is
Or
PDF?
help the students with special services.
Yeah.
Just students with special services in that age bracket. This isn't about all 3-year-olds getting public preschool, is it, Todd?
No,
Okay, yeah, I think
No,
to clarify for you guys. it's
may it
just
down the road.
Special education
Certainly
students who already have supports that are being targeted with this statewide shift.
And I'm sure it will change a little more before it comes into full practice. The administrative team met on July 31st and August 1st over at Darling Marine Center. Talked about ESSA funds, imagine that, federal money. Dominic did a presentation with special education stuff and shared a lot of information on special ed. Peter provided the administrative team with some business office updates as well as technology updates. We talked about what professional development could look like for our staff. Talked about curriculum and assessment. The administrators are meeting again, building level administrators are meeting again on Monday to continue those discussions. And we're doing a professional read, which I happened to get today. Kim Marshall's rethinking teacher supervision and evaluation. So we're going to be doing a read this summer and see what we think about that.
Teacher supervision means supervision of the teacher, not teachers supervising.
Yeah. So tomorrow I'll be participating in ESEA, everything's ESEA. I'll be participating in an ESEA federal funds webinar tomorrow morning. So if I get any additional information that I didn't share with you tonight from that tomorrow, I'll make sure that I pass it along to you. And we've been actively hiring teachers all across the district, and we've been fortunate, we've been getting candidates and filling our positions, so. And we're in good shape moving forward with that. Especially those schools that we have that were struggling with in special education now. We've hired 4 special education teachers this year, so.
Good job.
So that's it.
All right. Any other questions for Todd?
Do you want me to jump in? Cause I'm in this agenda, but not this agenda. I'm just on the way you want.
For the principal's report?
Yeah, she's right now.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, if there's no other question for Todd, we'll move into the principal. Okay, report, please.
All right, get it over.
What's that?
Don't get it over.
Yeah, I felt
that. It's weird to do, I'm so used to doing it either closer to the school year, because we usually have one right like the first week of school. But just big updates, our enrollment is down at the moment. We're about 13 less students right this minute than we were when that it was anticipated. I would say the big, with that many different from this time last year, and the reason I see the difference is they have an incoming pre-K right now, only 8. So
Oh,
that is the smallest incoming pre-K we've ever had in the. Is it 12 years now? 13 years of pre-K. It's been a long time.
This is pre-K.
Pre-K, so that having only 8 students is rare. I mean, I think our next smallest group was 11. We'll see if that gets any bigger. It's still, I mean, we have enrollments up for the first week of school, but that's an interesting. And then our 8th grade last year that's gone to the 9th grade was 21. So
okay.
there's your big shift. If 21 kids left, but only 8 came in, there's a big shift that you'll remember.
And how do you account for that, or can you, it's just random?
If I have like 3 or 4 classes with 22 to 24 kids, and then I have a couple classes with between now 8 and 14, so it is pretty random. And it's not a trend necessarily, because it is kind of different. It's a popcorn thing, next to the grades. My poor 7th and 8th grade team, a good example was, I was talking with one of the teachers today, and she'll have 7th and 8th graders in her room throughout the day because of the schedule. Well, you only need 14 chairs for the 7th grader, for the 8th graders, sorry, but when the 7th grade come in, you need 24 chairs, so A room, both rooms have to be outfitted with 24 chairs, because for at least 2 periods of the day, they're gonna go into that room where they need 24, and I'm like, oh, like it just. You said it's weird to set up a room for so many kids when half of your day, you only need literally less than, a lot less. So it just, it's unique. We've done all of our professional hiring, so all of the teaching positions are filled. I've mentioned earlier, I mean, back in June, we already had those positions filled. We had hired a music teacher that was filling in South Bristol, and we hired the part-time health position. And our middle level ELA social studies teacher, Marshall Flowers, is returning, so we have all of those roles all set. We had to hire a food service employee. One of our employees moved to an ed tech, more instructional position, so that position's open, so we've hired Kim Brow, and then I've hired 2 ed techs, but we've actually had 1, 2, 3, 4 ed tech resignations. Some were known, some, and only 2 hires, so we're short at the moment. 2 ed tech positions, and then my lunch recess aide position is unfilled at this time, which was a very part-time position. So technically, I have 2.5 ed tech roles to fill, or, something like that. I'll keep you posted, and, I learned last week that I'll need an approximately 2-month long-term sub at the middle level for somebody who needs a medical leave for a couple months. So if you know anybody who wants a job for 2 months, let me know. We'll post that in the Lincoln County News, hopefully tomorrow morning when Christy comes in, she'll send them the ad. So, I love when that happens 2 weeks before school starts.
And what grade level is this?
That would be 5th and 6th, for this upcoming year, so. One of my 5-6 team members needs to leave, so, we'll make it work. I've got, like I said, I've got a couple weeks to come up with plan A, which is finding somebody, and plan B with some shifts, maybe with, some of the ed techs we have that have that skill set. Other things, anything new that I haven't shared? Summer school just finished last week. It went very well. We had 13 students participate, and the attendance for those 13 was pretty strong. Most people were there all of the time they were able to come. Communication was great. And our special education summer extended program based on students' IEPs ends this coming week. So very fortunate to have staff members, mostly Bristol staff members, willing to work and do that. So I'll have data for that and data from this past school year at our September meeting to share. And then start of school, August 25th, 26th, 27 are workshops. I was looking at last year's principal's report and was asking permission to start with kids after Labor Day because of the construction, if you remember. So this year we don't have, we don't have to do any of that. Everything's back to a new normal. So we'll be starting with students that Thursday, Friday. And we have trying to put some fun things together for the kids the first 2 days, especially sharing the new tech room and cafeteria spaces in a fun way, not just for the class. Making some plans. Our leadership team meets this week to talk about that. Yeah, and then some of the same programming as last year with our community partners, but there's a really fun one in the works that you're going to hear more about. The Old Bristol Historical Society has been working with a team of teachers, and they're sponsoring a project in conjunction with the Carpenter Boat Shop, and they're going to work with one of our middle school classes, likely 7th grade has been tagged, to build a replica bateau, I think it's called, the commemorative, the 250th anniversary of this boat that was a part of, trying to stop the British in Quebec, apparently. I got little snippets of the story. I don't have the whole thing. I did go to the planning meeting, but we'll hopefully have kids the first 2.5 months of school heading to the boat shop to actually build one with a volunteer there. So
What grades is that?
probably 7th grade. It's my 7th and 8th grade team that's coordinating, but in order to give the kids real hands-on opportunities, if you pick too many kids, nobody has a real authentic experience. So if the team thinks 7th grade would be a good one for this year. That works, right? I think it's a great idea.
Works for me.
Yeah, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's like a good overview for now.
Exciting. Any questions for Jennifer? All right, we'll move right along. Finance report.
All
Mr.
right.
Nielsen.
So I was asked to, as part of the finance report, give you an update on the Apta Fund migration implementation. Apta Fund is our accounting software system that we use across all the schools in the AOS. And we contracted in 2023 to begin to use Apta Fund as we had wrapped up the use of a product called ProFund that we'd used for probably 20 years. And ProFund had become a unsupported software program 15 years ago. And was just old, and the company that made it put out a new product that they called Infinite Visions. And what we're hearing from around the state was that the new product was a quote train wreck. And to stay as far away from it as you could. So a lot of places in the state of Maine just put off moving to it, kept using ProFund, even though it looked like something I used, in high school when I first saw a computer. And it was, the people, when you call for support, say, yeah, that's not working, but we don't suggest you fix it, because anything at this point, anything we fix could break everything. So we were all trying to get away from it, but the new product was, everybody's afraid of the new product because it was not working well. So everybody put this off, and then finally in 2023, a company by the name of Harris Technologies released Apta Fund, not for the first time, but into the Maine market. They made an aggressive move to try to sell into Maine. They had many users in Texas, California, and New York, and they heard probably caught wind of the fact that Maine needed a new product, and they wanted to, take advantage of that market opportunity, and they began to work in Maine. And St. George was the first company, the first school district to use that company. And they used it for a couple of years, and the reports were pretty good, but I also was paying close attention to it in 22, 23, and hearing about the bugs they were still trying to work out using mainframes and things. And it wasn't quite ready, but then it became clear when there were some more big train wrecks that there was no choice but to move forward, and we leaped into Apta Fund as probably maybe not their second customer in Maine, but in the next group of 5. Like they went from 1 to 6 pretty quick, and we were in that cohort, if you will. And now they have probably 30 2 years later, maybe more, 40. And so as we began to use it, we prepared to make a first migration of our data in each database. And at the time, we were using 9 databases, 1 for each school district in the AOS. And we migrated the existing data in ProFund so that we could have the budgets and things, and began to do payroll in that in April of 24. Well, there's only a couple payrolls before you have to change the fiscal year, and every wage and job changes. And that was, wasn't a train wreck, but it was a very wobbly couple of months on the rails. And we also, Candy, who had been doing our payroll for 17 years, had said, I will never migrate. So if you migrate, I'm not going with you. And she left. And she actually moved to St. George because they had already finished the migration. Candy, of all the people I know, made the cleanest jump. So Candy didn't have to migrate here or there. So we began to experience a lot of difficulty with the using product without the veteran payroll person. And we spent about 3 or 4 months trying to get it to work after the fiscal year with new people who, some of them didn't last that long. And we were struggling to get Apta Fund to work well, and I think we all talked about that at the time, pretty well known. But what has happened since then is Emily joined our team at the end of October, and Bobby joined our team in the middle of January. And John Armentrout joined us maybe about the same time Bobby did, maybe a little earlier. As a central office Aptifund support technical person that we could just work internally without going Aptifund. With our own, team to try to solve problems, because at this point, we're realizing that Aptifund wasn't all that capable of solving all their own problems on their own. We needed to identify how it should work and show them so they could for us. And John has been critical in our ability to communicate with them on the technical pieces. Bobby and Emily had a different way of looking at it than previous crew. They were more database oriented users. And they thought of it more in terms of this is a database rather than this is a cash register, if you will. And with John's help and a few other moves that we made, we were able to start really kind of getting a hold of it. When I came time to train Emily on payroll, I did not have her trained in the central office. I made an arrangement to have her trained at the Midco School of Technology with a colleague of mine, a business manager, who had been using it longer in a very small environment. And she'd been business manager there or in Maine for 37 years. And she was able to train Emily on in their very controlled set of 40 employees in one database, how to do payroll. So we were able to kind of bring in that outside guidance. And then I formed with that same individual, Midcoast, we formed the Aptifund users group, and we began monthly or sometimes multiple times a month conference calls with everybody using Aptifund to talk about what we were experiencing. And then when April came around, we formed our own sort of sub-users group of 4 school districts that joined a spin-off group that I, asked if anybody wanted to join us, and we began what was called the Aptifund Critical Path to Fiscal Rollover, so that we were prepared for July 1st, because I knew this is when train wrecks can happen, when you jump rails onto a new year, So John participated in our calls every other week from April till July, when we rolled over into a new year with new jobs and new contracts and everything. And we worked with joining us on that call was Lindsay and her RSU 48 and some folks down at Lakes Region School District down around Sebago Lake, and some folks from Cumberland. And we all worked on how are we going to successfully roll over. That experience, all these experience working with other users, was instrumental in how we solved the sort of Aptifund challenge. And we found that everybody had the same problems. And that was a huge awareness for the whole team. It's like, we're not doing anything wrong. Aptifund just can't handle these things well for anybody. So once we begin to get a finite list of what Aptifund isn't doing well, we've been able to then work with them to say, these are the things you need to fix. And in the process of all that, I would have to say that John, Emily, and Bobby, this team that we're working with, have become champion users of Aptifund Maine and have emerged as leaders in all that user group set. And Emily said after a recent, or about a month or so ago in June, user group meeting, she said, we got over, and I said, is anything we take away from that? She said, I think we've graduated from this group. And so like we were in the sort of that first cohort that entered into the use of Aptifund, I think we are perhaps the first graduating class. There's still more to do, but we know what that is. Aptifund doesn't. And John and I are coming up with a list of the things that we want them to develop into their software over the next year. And so John's working with us the second year, not to figure out how the central office can use Aptifund, but we're coaching Aptifund on how they can improve so that it's in our interest that they gain an even larger share of the Maine market. And this becomes the standard that's used in all the schools, and they're making rapid headway in doing so. And we've participated in their success, and I feel good about that. Lots more to do, but we're past the point where we think it's where we're worried. Now we're just doing the work. And I said, when I was asked about a year ago, how long should the migration take? I think the person asking expected me to say 3 weeks, and I said 2 years. It'll be 2 years when we're doing our budgets, it'll be 2 years, and that's sort of budget January to March period. That's when we'll have hit 2 years, and I think that at that point, you know, we're be miles up, definitely ahead where we even are right now. So I trust all the data and everything. When I look at the finance reports that I'm giving you now, I'm not really looking at, do I trust the data? I'm looking at, well, I know what numbers, you know, might be off and might be right because what I have to do in here to kind of always keep it maintained. But I'm not wondering about it. I actually we have control over it. And so I'll tell you a few things that we're working on in this, in the month report when we get to it. But it is, I feel like we have the command of the ship entirely.
This may be a silly question, but is it customary for the users of a new product like this to have to devote this much manpower and help to the company that I assume is charging us for this? And I know it's in our best interest to have it work, but is there any kind of compensation, or is this just normal?
This is, I would say this is absolutely customary. I was vice president of business development for a software company, molecular informatics company, for about a decade. And it's the users that drive the development of the software. I mean, we would have user group meetings at Santa Fe and Cambridge University of pharmaceutical scientists and information technology people from this pharmaceutical companies from all over the world. They would come and they would tell us what we needed to build and what and how to build and what we needed to do to be able to let them do their science and their research. So it's very similar. I think perhaps that experience led me to see what our role here could be. It's the users drive the development of the software, and that makes it why it becomes user friendly and why we're able to do things that it's customized to our needs. Aptifund, you know, doesn't have main PERS, for example, in California, New York. Aptifund doesn't realize it was. I had an interesting, enlightening conversation one day when I was speaking with Vice President of Support and Development at Aptifund, and I said, "You do realize that in Maine, we have to, our public meetings have to pass each cost center, and that our school committees have to look at cost centers." He's like, "No one ever told us that," you know. So I shared the stash with him, shared how we view it, and he said, "You know, we've been selling into Maine now for 5 years and no one has explained that to us." So it's a simple thing. You think they would know it, but some of this stuff is they just need to, you know, more market awareness. And, you know, when you're working with, depends what market you're working with, when you're working with pharmaceutical scientists who have PhDs and are used to, you know, kind of advancing science, and they give you really direct feedback on how to develop it. You know, a lot of school business offices didn't really know how to call Aptifund and say, "This is what you want to do to make this work better for us." So it kind of, you know, so we're now doing that in a way that is much to our advantage, because it's good for us to have the reins and for them to do the work in developing the software.
Thank you.
How's the timekeeping going?
What's that?
The timekeeping? At the time, how's
Oh,
that?
I thought you were telling me to move on.
No.
Aptitime is one of the modules of Aptitime that we have purchased after Aptitime, which is basically digital time cards. And we were finding that all our paper time cards, which was a form probably created in 1861 or something, were just not very good at, you know, the stories are always helpful. The story that always emerges is the person who made up their own nickname and put it on their payroll sheet, and Candy knew it because she was here for 17 years. But we get like, you know, it was like even. I
Thank you,
can't-
assumptions we.
But it was some nickname of somebody, and it's like, who is this person? And we try to get payroll done, and you got that, and you get someone who just didn't put their name on it because they handed it to their principal, and the principal signed it and sent it to us. But the paper stuff does not work.
Ordering coffee at Starbucks.
So we've moved to Aptitime, and it has its own sort of tricks in it. You know, we had to really style in the amount of time that we allow people to punch in early or late and how that rounds off, because we gotta stay on budget. No one works exactly 7.5 hours, even though that's what we budget on. So we had to kind of like create new policies around that and create certain settings in Aptitime to keep that right. And then train people to use it. I mean, people are generally resistant to change, especially when it means, you know, if you're a custodian or a food service worker, you gotta get on your phone and say, "I'm here." And I went home every single day. It's a little, you know, it's an ask, but but it's better than saying you gotta write it down on a piece of paper and we may or may not get it on time. So it's moving along well. We still, that's one of the things that we continue to tweak, and one of the things that people are having, the users are having the hardest time in the cultural adoption of that behavior change. But we'll continue to work on that. We met with the Support Staff Association, talked about that. And they, because it's in their interest to track all their different pay averaging and support, and time off, vacation days, personal days, et cetera, accurately, they agreed that they would help us train the support staff to use it. And that's what we're rolling out the next, couple of weeks here, and the school begins again. So that's another piece of it. And you hear grumbles, the grumbles aren't that it doesn't work, it's, I don't wanna go on my phone when I forgot, and, I don't wanna have to be bothered. So we have to overcome that.
When did
And
that
then
change take place?
What's that?
When did that change happen?
We've been rolling it out in each school at a different month.
I see.
So, we began around March, April in South Bristol.
South Bristol was earlier in the winter, and then Bristol came on, in February or March,
Mhm.
something like that.
And then we did the other two a bit later.
Yeah.
And Peter, like,
Like,
if one of the staff's phone suddenly dies, they can do it via an independent computer, or? does
Yeah,
it-
they can do it on any device, anywhere.
The admin assistants will rescue them too.
What's happening now is that
They do,
the admin assistants help.
they do. I have
Start supporting them. a little
I have
bit.
one or two support staff that need Christy and Erica regularly, and they have an agreement. It works for them. And paper type cards, there were other people that needed assistance. It's not, it's someone's suicide.
That's a chocolate exchange.
Yes, it's a chocolate exchange.
Thank you. Thanks, Peter.
So, I have the FY 26 current financial report. I just ran it through today because of the way you're not really meeting monthly right now. But you need to make it accurate. And this is the first financial report of the FY 26 fiscal year. And what I do with this report right now, we've done 3 payrolls out of it. And but the only people who are getting paid out of the FY 26 money right now are the year-round employees. That's your administrators, which is, you just have the principal and assistant principal, and then the admin assistants, and then the custodians. The food service workers don't start yet. The ed techs are all the ed techs aren't really working right now, but the teachers and ed techs are not on fiscal year budgets, they're on their school year budgets, so their teachers are still getting paid out of FY 25 money right now. When school starts, they begin to get paid out of FY 26 money. So a lot of this is like, until school gets going, we're just looking at these to see if it's all set up right, matching our budget, working well. And making sure all the account lines are operating the way we intended when we budgeted. And I saw a few things in here today, this morning, when I was working with this, that I corrected so that it's better than when I first saw it this morning. But it does match the budget. It's pretty solid. The thing that, I said there was a few things in After Fund that I'm still working on. I don't really think that After Fund encumbers payroll still well enough for us to keep encumbering payroll using this tool. That's what John and I are gonna work with them on over the course of this year. I want to encumber payroll this year, the way I did in Camden Rockport, which is to not encumber it with the accounting tool, but to encumber it by running the first payroll of the year, making sure it's accurate, and then multiplying it by 26. So you see the whole year, or however many pay periods each individual has, and then start kind of tracking it against those numbers you set. And because what we've learned with After Fund is that there's too many variances and changes, and it throws off the encumbrances when you make multiple changes in a job, and they have to fix that. But we don't need to be bothered by that, because there's a simpler and cleaner, more elegant way to track a payroll than the accounting system. And it's still in Camden Rockport, they've never encumbered payroll because of that, even when there's pro fund users. And that's the way I was trained to originally do it. So we're gonna go back to that. I show your encumbered payroll as the system has it here. But I'm gonna work that out and work on that over the next month. And when we meet again, you'll see how I'm gonna do it for this year. And but all in all, you know, big numbers that we're seeing here right now. Are that your public tuition and private tuition. We haven't encumbered them yet, because we're just getting those numbers dialed in as the secondary students return. You've got 2 students under what you budgeted for. So you have 2 tuitions that are still available if anybody wants to move to town. And you still haven't touched any of your contingency, so that is sort of the best news you're gonna get. You know, at this point in the year. We'll see if that's, see what happens in the next several weeks, but the count we have at this point would indicate that you budgeted. Technically, you budgeted 2 over. And so that's good news. We did a big review of all the facilities and things that were related to construction. This is just the FY 26 general, but facilities budget. But we also looked at what was happening in the construction, what was anything that was picking up that would cause us any cost there, and there weren't. But there were things that we had planned to do that we are actively doing now, and some things that we'll actively do at the end of the school year. And I reviewed all that with John and Jen for over an hour this morning, and we feel very solid that this FY 26 facilities budget is well under control, even though that those 2 got off to a rapid start with this budget and started spending it pretty aggressively, but they were doing it exactly as planned, so that looks really good. And they got a lot of work.
And that's when you spend it, right? I mean, it's in the off season, that's when you,
So
that's probably when you're spending more is before school starts, right?
on the projects, yeah, and then you burn through those projects as fast as you can get the work done, because you don't
Yeah.
want to, wait till the last 2 weeks of June. This building is gonna be really busy from now till then. There is a big project that John probably mentioned about doing some door work that can't happen that fast, and that will have to happen at the end of the school year. He's got that dialed in, and we've got that accounted for. So I don't see anything in here at this stage in the finances that gives me any alarm. In fact, I think it's that you budgeted very accurately, and that this report after the without anything I said about active fund is looking pretty clean. So we're in fine shape. On the FY 25 end of year report, I'm gonna hold off on that till you meet again, because we encumbered a lot of funds in that budget for the work that JF Scott began beginning of the summer, and we're gonna wait and get those bills and see how that all settles out. And we just did some interlocal billing in the last few days with the staff that is shared, and I got it all done, but I want to just go and double check all that. I looked at your end of your numbers, they're still right where I said they would be. But we want to let some more dust settle. The teachers and ed techs are still getting paid out of that budget. And because of the encumbrance issue with Apta Fund, I'd like to let those encumbrances run dry, get JF Scott done and out of here with the bill, and then tell you exactly where we stand. To spend any more time on that right now tonight would just be spinning around the circle unnecessarily. So that's where we are, and I guess that's all that I was asked to report on tonight.
Thank you, Peter.
Any questions?
Yeah.
Put that latter one to September meeting.
Yes, yeah, next time they meet.
All right, facilities and maintenance, Mr. Carroll, building report.
Okay, so building report. We'd asked Jeff Scott to do a project in the front of the building to remedy some of the hills in the front. We had a lot of painting to do, of repair work. Most of the front of the building, hoping when people came in, noticed it was
Yeah, that's great.
looks much better than it did.
Yes.
We had to have them custom build a couple of louvers, and one of them is above the gym entrance. That was in bad shape. They've got that all built and in place. It looks great. They started painting on that. They're finishing up the gym entry. The column racks were in really bad shape, so those have been repaired and replaced. There was a lot of work in the front entrance. One thing left in the front entrance is right above the entrance, the shingles.
Yeah.
The shingles are pretty much done. They're weathered and bowed and cracked. Those are gonna be replaced next on the agenda. There's the project that Peter was talking about that we're gonna have to postpone probably until either a long break. Or possibly the spring is a south entrance.
Yeah.
That south entrance, the steel in the storefront is rusting. And the spines are broken in the storefront, so the doors tend to lean in. So when they do, they don't shut properly.
Mhm.
We have to go back and readjust them and try to get them back in place. That's gonna be replaced with an aluminum storefront that will kind of match the cafeteria. The thing was with the aluminum storefronts is they don't rust. So you don't end up with that problem, and they use a full length spined hinge. So that the doors don't sag, which makes a huge difference.
Mm.
So that's ongoing. We hope to have them wrapped up and out of here by school start. As far as the construction project, I'm sure everybody is aware of, there was a considerable punch list that was remaining. So we've been working through that. We have all of the interior punch lists completed. There's a few things on the outside that they'll be working on in the next few days. We hope to have that punch list 100% completed in the next week. And that's pretty much my report. Everything else, the custodial crew has been doing a great job. Most of the rooms have been thoroughly deep cleaned and re-waxed and cleaned up. And as you'll notice when you walk into the front, they've done a lot of painting.
Mhm.
The hallway looks much better now. That's all cleaned up and repainted. They're working on the gym entry now. That'll get repainted as well. So we've got a few more days to get some stuff wrapped up. Things are looking good.
Nice. The paving and the, where did that come out of?
So the paving in the back, there,
I said hybrid, there's a couple answers, right?
there's a couple of. So my answer is the paving in the back, their only obligation was to pave that one little path across and they dug out.
Okay,
So the pavement was broken and in really bad shape.
yeah,
It would have been hysterical.
It was
Yeah.
bad. So very fortunately for us, the contractor on site offered to donate a large portion of the paving.
that's great.
So the paving actually that was done, including all the way to the road, all the way down, and they straightened up the basketball hoop,
Yeah.
put them at the right height. Paved the entire thing and then painted everything.
Yeah,
That entire job cost the school about 9,000
wow,
instead of about
Yeah.
25,000.
that's,
So we were very fortunate for that.
Oh.
Yeah, my-
I've
yeah.
never seen it look that.
my
nice.
kids are so excited, we gotta play Foursquare.
Oh, first square is all.
That's legit.
That contractor was Stuart
Who was the contractor?
Ham.
Stuart Han, oh, of course, yeah. Well,
We
great.
just need to buy some rooms for all the goose
Yeah,
doo-doo.
we're grateful to Stuart Han.
Right.
We're grateful to the teachers that put the flowers in the parking lot there, those teachers, right?
That would be, yeah,
Mrs. Holmes and.
Ms. Holmes, Mrs. PW and Miss Cheney, so Mary Tammy,
That's great.
Kristen, yeah. And doing a lot of watering.
Yeah, right.
I don't wanna tell Chris Perry about the softball here, it's pretty yellow. We have until March, April, we got plenty of time.
Yeah, unfortunately, the weather has not cooperated as far as watering the.
No, nope.
Or the new grass.
Any questions about the building, for John? And if not, we'll just move on to our,
The dovetail is,
right, so,
Dovetail is completely out of the picture. We're completing the rest of the. All of the punch lists and everything that we found that was. Needed to be done.
Dovetail's completely out of the picture that John's in. Picture that I'm is wrapping up the finances and making sure that we mediate a final settlement with Optimum. That's gonna take another month or up to 2.
okay,
We're gonna try to, I listened very closely when you said the next meeting was September 23rd, is that right?
yes, sir.
And I'm gonna repeat that number, that date to Andy and say, let's get everything, like, let's have. Cause Optimum has to sit down with us and we have to agree that they paid for this, we paid for that, and all this liquidated damages discussion, probably involve a little Drummond with some time. And I'd like them to be able to say that they have a sort of September 22nd deadline to tell us that that's all done. So that hopefully you can bless that final settlement on at your next meeting, but it will take that long.
Okay.
So that's the only thing dovetails to it. Dovetails not involved with what the situation is on the ground any longer. That's all on John Karen.
Thank you, John.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great, any other questions about the building or the construction report? Thank you both. All right, we are up to our Bristol South Bristol Restructuring Committee. Emil Lugosh. Hi. You should. Yeah, you guys have this thing set up at the end of order. So we're gonna have another presentation. We have a presentation.
We're glad you're here.
Oh, right. Can't see.
Can't see. Oh, we're upset about that.
Just for sleep.
Maybe we should.
I've seen this.
Oh.
Not terrible.
Now we can. Well.
Catherine, do you want to sit on that side?
Yeah, we could just.
Actually,
Yeah, yeah.
God, to see.
Well.
There's for them.
The tablet is starting for the next meeting.
No.
No, you see it.
They're great.
You guys see it? Yeah.
Perfect. We're good. All right, here.
I just got. When I realized you have to use this for
So if you don't know Christian Coates from the South Bristol Board. Thank you. You bet.
Chair.
But you're leading, right?
Okay, we ready?
Okay.
Okay. So this began in January 23 and Drummond Woodson was called and they were speaking mostly to South Bristol. And then we decided to work together. And we formed a reorganization committee, which is when I kind of got on board to do work on forming an RSU. And a number of things happened. GSB started to pull out of the AOS. And so we put that all on hold and it ended for a while and nothing happened. And then early this summer, a few of us met again and started on the process. And I guess a few of us met and we decided we were going to go ahead with this. And Jen brought up the fact that we could form an ESC and we started looking into that. And so the real question is, why are we doing this? Why are we changing this? And we don't have the votes at the AOS to support. We're short on votes when it comes to the AOS funding and everything else. And it has been pretty hard to deal with. And it says here that South Bristol and Bristol together don't have the votes to change things. And we have a different view here on this side of Route 1 as far as education goes. And they're more financially driven for a number of reasons, but they are. And so we've decided and we've come to the conclusion that we could form an ESC, an Educational Services Center. And well, first of all, can you give me the next one? Here we go. What are the options? And there was this is mostly was, I think, South Bristol standalone school districts
and they're expensive, and it's not realistic. A private school model, and we didn't look at that, but I think South Bristol did. And it's not gonna work for them, and a two-town RSU. And you can see that requires transfer of control of the school building from the town to the school committee. It gets real argy-bargy. And it hasn't, and we ran into a lot of pushback at the town office. So, we've decided we could have a two-town educational center, a service center, and that allows us in South Bristol to share the resources, the services that we provide, that are provided by an AOS. But it allows, what's important, what I've seen is allows our two principals to get together and explore all different ways of collaborating in cost sharing, but also in student programs and stuff like that, that has become increasingly important to us. So what about a four-town ESC? I don't think, I think that puts us sort of back where we are with the AOS. I don't think that's gonna work for us. So we really like to stick to just Bristol and South Bristol and manage our own little unit. So the Bristol, well, the reorganization committee that we met a few weeks ago agreed unanimously to form an ESC or to pursue this. And last week, South Bristol voted to adopt an ESC or to start the application process. And what I'm here for tonight is to sell it to us guys to see that we can do the same thing. And if we can, then we will all proceed. Can we afford it? Yeah, we can afford it. Yeah. And we kind of have to afford it. We are kind of supporting Noblesboro and Jefferson to a greater extent than we should be. And I think it would benefit all of us to do this. Oh, the state makes financial contribution to the ESC. That's nice. This model says $100,000. Do I know that that's going to last forever, or I don't know where funding is going to go all the time, but it would be nice to have that right now.
Is that just a like startup
Pardon?
bonus, or is that a startup bonus, or is that an annual
Is that a-
contribution?
No, the ESC gives each school a stipend per student, and then it also pays 50% of the executive director's salary.
Annually.
Annually.
Okay.
Yeah. This is the state saying we'd like you to do this. That's kind of what they're doing.
It's the state's incentive to support this.
Well, I don't know, but I do know that there were something like 19 AOSs created under Baldacci's reign. And about half of them have started to dissolve. And so maybe they're looking to provide those towns with another alternative.
So the AOS structure basically isn't working.
The AOS structure is not working.
Yeah.
Can I comment on that?
That's-
40, I think 40 towns have withdrawn from the consolidation efforts. Yeah, Peter?
The Education Service Center was invented or created by legislative action in like 2018.
Mhm.
It staggered its way out of the gate because of the pandemic. It took a while for enough towns to really have the time to work on that. So it kind of was a sleepy start because of the years that it came into being. It came into being, and the state has an incentive in it because what they're looking at is the declining enrollment in rural areas, along with the labor shortage of not being able to really field enough people to be superintendents, principals, teachers, ed techs, etc.
Mhm.
And what the education service centers allow for is the multi-school district like you have two school districts here, Bristol School District and South Bristol School District that are joining together to get all sorts of services. But down east, they have a ESC that provides transportation services. Okay, so it provides bus drivers. They employ 120 bus drivers and they have 120 buses. And they do transportation from like Ellsworth up to Lubec or something. And so this is a concept that allows for services to be delivered over a broad region by multiple school districts. We're taking advantage of the fact that this exists to solve our own problems, but it's really meant to create specialized regionalization of services across the state.
So ESCs can be focused on a more narrow thing like transportation or just special ed or just.
There's about a
business
dozen
or
services.
Broader.
There's about a dozen services that can be included in an ESC, but you only need to use a minimum of two to start one. So there's some specialized ones.
So that makes it a lot more flexible than an AOS.
Right.
As another comparison of
Oh,
why, because some of the old AOSs are probably going this route. And why is it that different? I think it's that choice around what services.
We ran into, the AOS was a Frankenstein, honestly. It was meant to deal with the fact that there were a number of towns that didn't want to become an RSU.
They never stopped.
So they stuck them all together and called it an alternative organizational structure, but they never bothered to think it through as to how it was going to function. They just kind of like said, let's finish this consolidation project statewide, and the towns that didn't join, you stick them in these things. And that's what we got put in. And they never maintained it. They would update and change the rules for RSUs, but they didn't update and maintain the rules for AOSs. So we're still dealing with a short-sighted idea from 2009. And so we can't be a fiscal agent, which doesn't make any sense because that's what we're intended to be. So we have to have Bristol buy software and then have all the other towns pay for it when we share it. Or we have to have, Jefferson employ an occupational therapist that everybody shares. We just manage all these other budgets, but we can't provide any educational services. We can't act as a fiscal agent. We can't own property, so we're doomed to whatever landlord tells us the rent is forever. So this was a way to kind of give more of a independent contractor kind of entity, but it's owned by the school districts. So you own your own contractor. And so
Governed by,
what's that?
owned and governed by.
Owned and governed by the school districts that are members of it. And so it was a model that was trying to relieve a lot of different types of problems. And it's and considering that it came out just in like 1819, and then there was the pandemic and a lot of other things happened in education in Maine. We're kind of, again, like I talked about Applicon, we're in the sort of the first wave of rolling out this new tool, and we'll figure out how best to utilize it.
But we're not alone because there's 6 or 7 other ESCs in existence already.
Oh, I think there's more than that.
Kent and Biddeford.
I would say there's like 15 or 30.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, and I've met with some of their executive directors, et cetera. Some of them are, there was a little bit of a problem. Some people saw the stuff sitting quickly threw together in a ESC and started just trying to make increased money off it and didn't use it, right? So some of those they're trying to wipe out. And others are more successful in delivering different types of things. I think one of the things that they should be used for, maybe some places, someplace else, special ed ESCs should be taking over special ed across Maine. I really think that's a really good way to solve that problem. Transportation is another good use, but here, AOSs, as Christian said, the ESC AOSs have been trying to get out of being AOSs since they were invented, and half of them have, the other half are trying. And I really believe that the ESC is a way to get out of an AOS, create something that you have a lot of flexibility with, and that you have all local control in as well.
Has the restructuring committee considered talking with Booth Bay and comparing notes on what their
I have met
process
with
has been
the
like, what
Blue
theirs
Bay
has
people
been
and compared
like?
notes. Yep, I've
Great,
done that.
great, because they're probably a good model for us.
Well, to be honest, nothing against the good people of Booth Bay, but Rocky Channels AOS, Rocky Channels ESC was the first one created. And it is the one that the director of finance said it was just a way to get the superintendent a bigger salary and they like to shut it down if they're.
We're learning from the pros and cons of other routes.
And
Right.
it's not being utilized.
But the
Or anything else.
DOE maintains a list
What's that?
statewide,
The
the
DOE has a
DOE
list?
maintains a list
Oh, yeah.
statewide. of all
There's a big
the
section, you
agencies.
can all go Google the main DOE Education Service Center, there's a whole section on
Oh, huge.
ESCs, FAQs about them, a list of them, maps, interactive maps of where they are and what they do. And it's and some of them are very successful, as the finance director for the state told me. Very recently, I just saw her last week at an event they were doing at Thomas College. She said that, they have been learning over these last 6 or 7 years how to help build them right. And that's what they're really focused on now that the first ones got up, so I think it's a good time to build an ESC myself.
Not every ESC provides the same services.
Right.
So, these two communities may have a need for different services than Booth Bay, for example, or RSU two and Monica or whatever. So one of my previous districts was an ESC for professional development for staff.
Is there any kind of evaluation process, like annually or anything like that, to evaluate how the ESC is functioning? Or
That would be under the governance section of the ESC. So the ESC, we can develop a governance structure the way that makes sense for us. As long as the DOE, it's put into the application and the DOE approves that. So, it could be, for example, 2 members of each of the school boards, for example, or whatever. So that would be the way to evaluate and keep tabs on what's happening at the ESC and how it's governed and what the finances are and
So we define that.
what the budget is. Yes.
But it'd be self-evaluation, DOE doesn't evaluate.
Okay.
But we can learn from other schools' successes and.
My understanding is it's a
You're definitely
department,
involved
No
in the
real
governance
reinventing.
and running of the ESC. Yep.
my understanding of the Department of Education is pretty flexible in allowing us to do the things we have to do. Mostly because I'd like this to happen, Bill.
I can't, forgetting this part, once we withdraw, if we withdraw from the AOS and we form an ESC. So what we are is an ESC, are we an SAU, are we something else, are we,
No,
we're just an ESC.
we're an ESC and we have 2 SAUs. We have 2 schools within the ESC. And the ESC has its own superintendent and its own executive director and staff, and it's very much like you think of, or a lot of people think of the AOS, except it's right here.
So we're going to be like, Bristol would be SAU.
No, we wouldn't.
No, we would-
Nothing at all changes about the
Like,
Bristol
no.
School Committee whatsoever. Bristol School Committee and South Bristol School Committee remain exactly who they are. They are both municipal school units now, and they will forever, with this plan, they would forever be municipal school units. You would govern the same way, you pass your budgets the same way, you have the same relationships with your town, your budget committee, your select board. And everything happens exactly the same as it does now, for your particular school unit, school administrative unit. And the ESC is created and you own it.
Yeah, we don't get a new name or number, like even in an AOS, we're still a municipal, Bristol is a municipal school unit as part of AOS 93, and Bristol would be a municipal school unit under an educational service center.
Is that the same thing as what an SAU?
Yes, regional, like but I don't know if there's a nuance between RSU and SAU. Well, not RSU, SAU and municipal school. Yeah.
You know, it's any what?
They haven't made any structures.
No, they're not.
I've never heard any school called an MSU.
It means-
Municipal school unit means you're, like you are the Bristol School Committee. You're a school committee you're a department of the town government,
Yeah,
okay? So an RSU, regional school unit, has many towns represented, has a whole different way that you
We
decide how
just don't
many.
usually call it a municipal school unit, we just say Bristol's part of Union 74, Bristol's part of AOS 93, that's been my
And
experience.
it's more you're identifying the acronyms with the governance of it, not the school. Because if you're saying that Bristol school committee is an MSU. Isn't the school the MSU?
No, the school is just, because you also provide,
School.
you provide secondary education to students in grades 9 through 12 at Lincoln Academy or wherever they choose to go. So you govern that here. Your school committee
You guys are in charge
is in
of
charge of all those students. That's not here. It's not at the K through 8 building. So, and you also, you may choose to do other things. You could have a pre-K program in this building, or you could have built a pre-K program, somewhere else in Bristol. But you decided to put it here. It isn't any about one building. You are responsible for the education of all the citizens of your town, to a certain age. And so you're a municipal school unit, regional school unit, in many towns. Community school districts are a sort of dinosaur, they don't make them anymore, but they were a different type of alliance, they gave way to the RSU. And SADs are also something it doesn't really exist anymore, but there are still some that carry that name.
Yeah, that's the confusing part. the
School
SAT.
administrative
Yeah.
districts. So SADs and CSDs were replaced by RSUs. MSUs continued to exist next to the RSUs. And then AOSs caught up a bunch of them that didn't get into an RSU, and then ESCs, they're independent contractors that they can.
Enough acronyms.
So there are about 6 or 7 acronyms, but you're absolutely
Education
right.
Service Center, we'll
When-
use
when you
all
define-
the syllables.
When they're defined by statute, the statute just says what the governance model is and what the financial model is of each one. They don't have an education model. All the education models go back to just general DOE. This is what the rules are on the instruction and education.
Well, we need to know what to look for on the snow days. so I
Yeah, oh, buddy. That really what matters.
Get on your television, Becky.
One of the great things about an ESC is that you just remain completely local control. You're still the Bristol School Committee. You are still the town of Bristol, making your own financial decisions. And you just essentially build a contractor that you and South Bristol build together and own together and can use to buy the services from contracted services of together. And it's a very simple and elegant solution to everything you're currently facing.
Thanks.
That's about as good as it gets.
Both sides, right?
I mean, can we afford it? Yes, we can afford it. Our initial cost would be somewhat higher as our contribution to the ESC, but there'd be some savings on our regular school budget. And really what I want, what we offer. And we have our own superintendent at this point, but we will. We have our own financial administration. We're not tied to the AOS. We have our own special ed, so we're not tied to the AOS and the problems that some of the other schools may have. Facilities, we're in charge. Transportation, we take care of that, and it probably is exactly the same thing as we're doing now. We contracted out the first student, just like we always have. Same with nutrition, we would have staff for nutrition, just like we do now, and I guess we might have to hire, and I don't even know, no, we don't have to hire a nutrition. All of the things that we have now, we will still have. But we have the control. When I've lived in this town for long enough, and all I've heard about is local control of, this is it. It's it can't be any clearer than that. The only school we have to deal with is South Bristol, and they seem to, our two principals seem to work pretty well together, and they're already sharing so many of their services that it seems like, a no-brainer. So, what positions? An executive director, we have to hire one. Okay, a superintendent, we have to hire one of them too, but and all of these, most of these positions we already have in-house. They are people that are here right now that we can change their jobs and they will fit right in, so we don't have to do much outside hiring. So we pretty much carry all of that already. Um,
Ryan, Peter, as you said,
pardon?
Emile, can I ask a question? So can you go back for a second? So some of these positions are not full-time, so the superintendent slash curriculum director would be 50% each or something? These would.
Right.
These positions would double, so each one of these wouldn't be a full-time position.
There's a lot of different ways you can skin this cat,
Right.
and we've only looked at one way to put a budget together to get him on the, to present here. The restructuring committee would get back together and look at different models of staffing.
Right, I just don't want people looking at this from the outside thinking each one of these is going to be a separate full-time position.
Right, right. Well, no, because we've reduced our physical size, our population size. One person can handle 2 jobs. So that would be a savings.
but where are all these people coming from? You said we already have them. Got them in AOS. They're not gonna be, we can hire them away from them. That creates a problem with the AOS.
We have them in-house. and-
We have-
We have a superintendent and a curriculum director. We have a sped
Well,
director.
potentially.
Potentially, we have those without,
Potentially.
You're right,
yes.
we've got people who could take those positions if they were hired.
And I'm
Who are
sure,
qualified to do that.
So,
Which still needs to be determined.
yeah, I'm sure we would do a transparent hiring process. Like any other hiring.
Possibilities.
I don't see how you tell me Jennifer can move up to superintendent and we'll have to replace her. Is that how it works?
A lot of this nitty gritty, Chuck, a lot of.
Those are the details is what it is. I mean, this is all great stuff, but the double is in the detail.
Yeah.
Start executing.
Well, that's the restructuring.
That's why the
committee's job to
restructuring
get
committee
right.
meets and is discussing that.
So it's true, the restructuring committee has talked initially that these would probably be part-time positions, these individual
Yeah.
positions, likely because of the size of the student population when looking 2 schools versus 4.
Okay. What positions would the school employ? Same things as we have now. I mean, we have the same teachers, we have the same staff. We're looking at an integration of IT because we're working on that all the time anyway, and with our new addition that we just put in there, we got a whole bunch of IT improvements. So, God, I must have run a few hundred miles of Cat5 cable. So we have the ability to do all of that in-house. Let me see. We can do it here. We can house it right here. We have space in this building to do this. We have office space and computer space and phone system space and all of that without stretching ourselves in any way. We're blessed that way right now. So I don't think we have to worry about that. This is where it gets fun. We have to have part 1 of the application in soon. I forget the exact date, but it's
End of the month.
end of the month.
Yep.
I have a copy of it here. It's real simple. Basically, what we do is we tell the Department of Education, hi out there, we'd like to have an ESC. And here's a few names and phone numbers and let me see. Part 1. A proposed name. Well, we've already proposed the name. We want to call it John's Bay because it's what divides us by water.
Unites you.
Yeah, it's nice.
So how
Keyword,
do you-
yes.
I mean, and then it says organization, contact person, telephone, email, proposed operational date. And identify the school admitted the SAUs that are applying to form an educational, describe it. All of the very few things that do this. This is 2 pages. And we respond with 5 pages or 10 pages and they're happy to get us going on this process. But the thing is that end of the month, we've gotta start the process. And we have to, by the end of October, we have to work on an interlocal agreement between Bristol and South Bristol, and we have to file part 2 application. And
So you have to have a signed, fully executed interlocal agreement by the end of October.
that's right.
Are the two applications, one from each town?
Yep. South Bristol's already signed their part 1. They voted on it.
They voted.
They voted on it. I don't know if they created it, but they voted on it.
We
Yeah.
voted to pursue part 1.
Yeah, they're gonna do part 1, so.
On the agenda, you can see the motion that was made. I put it on there for you because I figured it would want to
Yeah.
be consistent with the other towns. So I've already got the motion on your agenda for you. If someone wants. to-
Thank you.
Technical point there, Neil. There's only one application submitted, only one part 1 and one part 2. There's the 2 towns together submit an application.
Oh,
Yeah, do part 1 and do 2 towns do part 1.
There's only one application
Right,
that gets
okay.
submitted
Collaborative.
by both towns
Collaborative.
together.
Yeah.
So it's it's.
So South Bristol voted
Joint.
to engage in part 1, and we've
Yeah.
gotta do that too.
Yeah,
That's right.
we've asked you out on a date.
Okay.
So you gotta decide when to come along.
Kiss me the first time. I guess the real thing is that we have to move this along rapidly. That's what I'm, I want to lend whatever force I can to the fact that we must be moving this right along.
Yeah, the restructuring committee needs to be able to get back together to hash out the staffing plan, to talk about the interlocal agreement, to figure out who is gonna help. Ramrod all this stuff through, and our decisions, like, if for whatever reason we decided not to do it, would be a little bit disastrous at this point, because our decisions affect so many other people. It affects our town, our individual school budgets, it affects our individual town budgets, and that it also affects the other towns that are currently in the AOS, their town budgets, and sorry.
Where is it? Read that one.
Is that my computer? or-
Yeah.
No, it's this device itself. Probably just touch cancel.
You go back to that.
There we go.
So anyway, I think we just have to
second.
recognize that our decisions here are not just affecting us and our schools, but
Yeah.
people across the county, so we have to be deliberate.
So, I mean, I think the motion is in your agenda, essentially that, gives you. A vote on pursuing the part 1 of the application.
Correct.
Of the ESC, which doesn't necessarily commit us to building an ESC, if we can help the DOE at some point that we decided not to, although I think what Christian's saying is, we really need to pursue something other than the AOS structure. For both our programming and our financial benefit.
Right. And we can keep scrolling on through this. We have to have an ESC team. Does that mean the restructuring committee could be that team? I don't know, actually not. They can be, I suppose, or part of it.
Sorry, I missed the question.
Who is the ESC team?
We just need to identify some people who
Some
are gonna,
people,
like, cause we can
yeah.
have a 20-person restructuring committee, but there's gotta be 2 or 3 people that are gonna do the work.
Right, okay,
And those, it would be great if those 2 or 3 people included the people who we expect will be leading this effort in the
Right.
future.
But this slide isn't about I think this is the slide that says you need positions.
Right.
To name some positions.
Yes. It would be great to know that.
But you go hire these people right
But the
away.
first thing we have to do is get together and figure out the staffing model.
and we'll do, and the restructuring committee.
Yeah.
So. I guess really what we've come to is the point of voting on this. Unless somebody has more questions to ask.
Can you roll back that slide that had all the financial stuff
Hold
on?
hold on, Chuck, I want to hear from the board. We're gonna get questions from the board. There's another public comment at the end, so if you want to save your.
Thank you.
Yes.
So my understanding is now we're only voting on the part one.
Part one application, correct.
However, by voting, if we vote yes on that, we are also, because we're aware of the time crunch and other people being impacted by this, we're showing our support for this process.
Yes. That's exactly
We're
right.
not just saying we'll fill out the application and, well, maybe if we don't like it later, we'll ditch it.
Right.
We are showing our support for the process of becoming an ESE.
Mhm.
And we would like to start the process, and we're starting the
Yep.
application.
Yep.
So on paper, it's a letter of intent, functionally, it's a commitment.
And is there not one more page about?
Did you have another page? Another slide? Oh, here we go.
There.
If we delay.
Okay. No change is possible until 2027. We still have the same problems we have with the AOS that we are having now. And June and Christian know about that as much as any two people in here. Peter and Todd. Our costs are gonna go up. We're gonna lose our momentum and the morale. After I saw our last budget meeting for the AOS, the one that failed and the one that passed, it wasn't pretty. And we're gonna lose talent, and we may lose part of the team that we could install into this ESC.
Well, the timing is good for this, because we have this new expanded building with better use of space. We can accommodate different offices for different types of roles, admin and roles for both schools. Coordination of programming, very nice for both schools with this larger facility. It seems like that's the timing is really good. We have a new building essentially. And we would have a new restructuring. And I think that would bring a lot of excitement between the two towns and the two schools, whatever they're called.
Both.
SAU and SRU.
Can I ask Jennifer, is it the space that's available here for the ESC staff? Is that long-term? Is that temporary?
So when we did upgrades, we made sure to have small workspaces, and we had some already, so there are. Spaces that would never house a classroom because they wouldn't hold more than 6 or 7 kids at once. So we have enough of those kinds of spaces that if let's say two completely new roles had to be housed in this building, that would be easy if we were adding on, but even some others. Some of the modeling we talked about on the restructuring is within the roles we have in our buildings, some of the clerical tasks can be done by the people already hired in the buildings by doing it for both schools and just delineate roles slightly differently, but we do have, I don't see it being a problem right now, given the number of people. I mean, if our enrollment explodes and we need to have more expanded staffing, for instructional, specialists, we might run into trouble in the future, but, I don't, right now, if anything, we're a little smaller, but we have been around 190 to 200 kids for the past, I'd say 10 years. It's been pretty stable in that range, so.
And does the repurposing of that space detract from staff resources at all? Is that?
No, not that I can see in the near future.
Other questions for Emil, Christian, John? I just say that I went to the last restructuring committee meeting and it was unanimous and everyone was very positive about the shared values between the schools. They're excited about more interactions that way, and then as well as the financial incentives, you know, I heard. You know, there may be some cost savings, if not just flat, right? I mean, something along those lines, you know, it's like, we're not gonna be paying out a lot more. Whereas being in the AOS, it's especially for South Bristol, they're looking at a
Yeah.
larger cost increase. So,
I think too, there's the, this is not something we could or would do in the near term, but down the road. There is the potential for basically being able to sell services that we offer
hmm,
to other schools in the neighborhood.
right,
And I guess my feeling is that just from an educational standpoint, this is really good for the kids. And that's why we're all here. I mean, this presents opportunities for our kiddos. And, yeah, cost is important, you know, money is always important, there's no doubt about that. But, I spent the weekend of the selling tickets for the Ducky race of all things. But some people came up to me, they said, what's so good about living in this town? And I said, schools. Sent my kids to them. Said, we have good schools here, and this is the kind of thing that improves the school system. And that's why I want to see it happen.
Yes, the restructuring committee meetings are public, yeah.
Hmm.
So residents can
Mhm.
attend if they want to see more of the
Where are
project.
they scheduled?
it was on the slide. There was a slide that said the
There's
next
one coming
meeting,
up in.
it's on the 21st.
They aren't regular right now. We're scheduling them when we meet. We'll schedule the next one, but we'll make that public.
We'll make sure. it's on the
Got
full
Bristol
calendar.
people on that?
Yep.
Yep, there's
There.
right here behind you.
There's a bunch
What's
of
it?
staff. Well, I was gonna say, it's not just positive for
I've been
the.
enough,
Hold on.
tough meetings over the past year.
Chuck?
And I'm talking now, and you listen, you shut the goddamn mouth. I said, listen.
No, I'm sorry,
Sir,
yeah,
You
please
don't
stop.
have
This- this-
I'm
it's
talking
public.
though.
It's not
you
public
do
opinion.
not have the floor, sir.
I have the floor and
No, you
I'm
do
talking.
not.
Come on, Chuck, please.
Would you like to be taken out?
You wanna try it?
No, but we'll get somebody
on,
that
come
has to.
Chuck, please. Be a little patient here.
Can't you talk to the public?
We have a public comment.
All
This is the school
wait.
business meeting.
No, wait.
Thank you. Behind you, I'm just gonna point out, Sarah Kennedy is on that committee, as well as several Bristol teachers and several members of the school board. To answer that question. Any other questions from the board or the construction committee members here? All right. If not, then the next thing we could do is take a motion.
So moved.
So I have a motion to support submitting the ESC application part one. Second, okay, any discussion? Emil made the motion. So I have a motion, and a second, any other discussion? All in favor? Motion carries, thank you. No correspondence, communication. No old business. New business? New construction, open house. I'm sorry, I'm looking at you, Jennifer.
Who did the vote, sorry,
Thank you.
nothing, got it. So yes, we've talked about doing the ribbon cutting, the open house, the celebration. Ideas from the staff, ideas from the board have come up. What I'd like, I think I mentioned this at the June meeting, is I'd love to find out which of two of you, there's more than two of the board meeting, would be interested in helping organize the event and the invite list, because we'll have a couple staff members and just sit down and hammer out a plan for within the first 2 weeks of school, the best way to do it.
Are you volunteering?
Yes.
Okay,
Emil's
I got
interested,
Emil's interested.
Organizing the ribbon cutting open house event for the new building.
You want some of us, so.
I'd love two of you.
She'd like
to
two of
know-
us, because it doesn't constitute a quorum.
It's not a quorum to help with that community.
You okay with that, Becky?
Sure,
Thank
thank
you.
you very much. I will reach out to you.
Who are the other, do you have other folks involved?
I have a couple staff members, but I need to make sure I have the right staff.
Okay.
I mean, I have a bunch of people interested, but it'll come down to timing.
I'm sorry, and you were looking at what?
Within the first 2-3 weeks of school, so, you know, it would have to be either thinking. We're trying to organize open houses related to parents going to visit classrooms, so I'm trying to stagger how many events you do as well. So the pre-KK is doing one August 25th. After the workshop time, but then we typically do a grade 1 through 4 event separate than a 5 through 8, because
Mhm.
so. We may even tag on to one of those events too, just not sure what makes the most sense, given who has to be invited. You know, Peter and John Carroll, you guys will help me with the who's been involved with the project as an example, that should be part of this thing, but then there's. Folks in the community we want to make sure we invite, so partly our invite list might dictate a little bit the timing of the event too. So,
But this would be open to the public.
Yes, yes.
You want certain people to be here.
Correct.
Whatever.
and some should be specifically invited, right? Like our donors might get big, you know, whether they want to be part of that or not. Nice thing. So.
Great. Any other questions about the open house? Hearing none, we'll move on to our policies.
Cheers down.
So we've had our second read. We got a third read, we've had a third read, yeah. We had the motion, it had been tabled, these policies have been tabled at this meeting. Was there discussion about the policies that anybody,
I didn't give any
And
questions or anything.
no questions via the email? Do we have any? Otherwise, it seems like we can,
Because we discussed them at length.
Yeah.
You've discussed it
Earlier.
multiple times,
Questions
and
and.
then you had the little cheat sheet that's saying, planning that the MSMA policies that these are. Really that covers the best of both of the pre-existing policies. So that will be the recommendation. That's what self-postal.
Right.
Who was it
All
that
right.
was kind enough to?
Same.
same release.
Vice Chair Brown.
Okay, so I have a motion from Emil to accept the policies. Do I have a second?
Second.
Catherine, has a second? Any other discussion about the policies? Hearing none, all in favor? All nay, carried. Future board topics?
Yes.
Yeah, follow.
ESC. Sure, that will be on. Okay, let me know if you have any.
This Catherine seconded the policies.
Correct.
Yeah, I got that.
You got it.
Yeah.
Okay, here's, we've just added another public comment towards the end of our meeting. Any public comments?
I wanna thank you for doing that, but now we're
welcome.
consistent with everybody else. But the question I was concerned, I was trying to find out for the committee. I've been a lot of these meetings. And restructuring comes up every time, I can go back whole year. I get it from your mail. No meeting, no meeting, no meeting, no meeting. And suddenly, here it is. It's good stuff, I'm an advocate, but, you know. I don't, where do I find all that happened, find out the agenda and places for the restructuring committee that we haven't seen for a year. It hasn't been reported at all in the Bristol agenda or minutes.
I mean, it's a steering committee, Chuck, they do take minutes. I mean, I would defer to John about it.
Well, I have one more thing.
I mean, it's an advisory committee, you know, so as you've seen, they've had discussions among themselves. And they brought this to us, and then we make a decision based on
I mean,
it.
Chuck, can I see that GSB leaving the AOS was a huge transition, and I
Yeah.
think they've been waiting for the dust to settle. To
Correct.
start pulling some of those numbers and seeing what it would look like for us to. You know, it's a big transition to adjust.
I agree.
to. So regrouping now that, you know, that stuff is formalized, I think is a good.
I'm not arguing against the concept. Concept is good. It's just a process here. Okay, I mean. Kristen started his off last week, saying only 3 people knew what the hell was going on at his school board meeting. And the questions they were asking over there indicate that they didn't know. Some of the people there that was going on, the meetings have been going on. And we're getting a report, you gave me reports all year long, okay, no meeting. And suddenly we're here.
It's true. There haven't been
There
meetings
were.
for many months. And the last meeting was very fruitful, obviously, because it was unanimous. And very positive, like I said. Am I lying? I was there, but also other people.
I have one question, and I'm trying to here. Where are any of these processes, especially withdrawing from the AOS? Does that require town vote?
No.
No.
Who says that? The suits from Portland?
Statute.
The statute says yes.
No,
it doesn't.
No, it does not.
Your interlocal agreement, you can look it up on the AOS website. For the AOS, says that to withdraw from the AOS, you have to basically submit a withdrawal plan to the superintendent. To the Commissioner of Education. And that withdrawal plan could or could not involve town votes or anything, whatever you decide, and then the commissioner approves the withdrawal plan. So the commissioner could say, we want you to do it differently than you're planning to do it. But they could also say you can do it just that way, but that's all specified in the AOS 93 interlocal agreement. It's exactly what GSB went through, and GSB withdrew from the AOS without any town votes in Bremen, Darmstadt, or Newcastle. And we've worked with the Drummond Woodson and the Department of Education to clarify all the rules around that. And so we know very well that it can be done because it has been done right here.
But all of these meetings are open to the public. People can attend and stay informed. There's opportunity to be present and to provide public comment. It's not the.
The statute,
I'm not, sorry, I'm not, yeah, I'm gonna cut you off. Because it seems like we're gonna get into the weeds here, and we could do that outside of this meeting, so if there's no other public comment, I would move to end the meeting, adjourn the meeting. Any objections? No. Yep, adjourn the meeting, thank you.
Chuck, you wanna meet me in the office like we did in budget season?
AOS, right in the